and welcome to Medical Dialogues, your daily dose of health and medical news. I'm Mr. Zaman and here is what I bring to you all from the world of medicine. The loss of Y chromosome and its adverse effects. Loss of the Y chromosome in blood cells of men is associated with disease and mortality, but no clear causal relationship has previously been identified. Now, researchers from Uppsala University show in an international study in the journal Science that loss of the Y chromosome in white blood cells causes development of fibrosis in the heart, impaired heart function, and death from cardiovascular diseases in men. The mouse models used in the study, the mouse Y chromosome was eliminated to mimic the human amyloid condition, and the researchers analyzed the direct consequences that this had. Examination of mice with amyloid showed an increased scarring of the heart known as fibrosis. The researchers saw that amyloid causes the fibrosis, which leads to a decline in heart functions. The researchers were also able to corroborate the causal effect in mouse via epidemiological studies in humans, where they found amyloid to be a new significant risk factor for death from cardiovascular diseases in men. These studies were performed using data from UK Biobank, a database with genomic and health information from 500,000 normally aging individuals aged 40 to 70 years at the start of the study. Men with amyloid in their blood at the start of the study displayed an approximately 30% increased risk of dying from heart failure and other types of cardiovascular disease during approximately 11 years of follow-up. The study describes for the first time a mechanism by which amyloid in blood causes disease in other organs and further identifies a possible treatment. It is shown that amyloid in a certain type of white blood cell in the heart of mice, so-called cardiac macrophages, stimulates a known signaling pathway that leads to increased fibrosis. When the researchers blocked this signaling pathway, the pathological changes in the heart caused by amyloid could be reversed. The link between amyloid and fibrosis is very interesting, especially given the new treatment strategies for heart failure, pulmonary fibrosis, and certain cancers that aim to counteract the onset of fibrosis. Men with amyloid could be a patient group that responded particularly well to such treatment, the researchers concluded. The effects of cognition in mild drinking. Consumption of 7 or more units of alcohol per week is associated with higher iron levels in the brain, according to a study of almost 21,000 people publishing July 14th in the open access journal PLOS Medicine. Iron accumulation in the brain has been linked with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's diseases and is a potential mechanism for alcohol-related cognitive decline. A total of 20,965 participants from the UK Biobank reported their own alcohol consumption, and their brains were scanned using magnetic resonance imaging, that is MRI. Almost 7,000 had their livers imaged using MRI to assess levels of systemic iron. All individuals completed a series of simple tests to assess cognitive and motor function. Although 2.7% classed themselves as non-drinkers, average intake was around 18 units per week, which translates to about 7.5 cans of beer or 6 large glasses of wine. The team found that alcohol consumption above 7 units per week was associated with markers of higher iron in the basal ganglia, a group of brain regions associated with control of motor movements, procedural learning, eye movement, cognition, emotion, and more. Iron accumulation in some brain regions was associated with worse cognitive function. This is the largest study to date of moderate alcohol consumption and iron accumulation. Although drinking was self-reported and could be underestimated, this was considered the only feasible method to establish such a large cohort's intake. A limitation of the work is that MRI-derived measures are indirect representations of brain iron and could conflate other brain changes observed with alcohol consumption with changes in iron levels. Given the prevalence of moderate drinking, even small associations can have substantial impact across whole populations, and there could be benefits in interventions to reduce consumption in the general population, the researchers concluded. Tibial spine fractures. Young patients who undergo surgery for displaced tibial spine fractures and also who had both an extension and flexion contracture had 2.2 times the odds of having a complication compared to patients who did not have any contractures, according to research presented at the American Orthopedic Society for Sports Medicine's 2022 annual meeting. To investigate this further, researchers determined if residual displacement of the anterior portion of a tibial spine fragment affects the range of motion or laxity in post operative and non-operatively treated tibial spine patients and to assess if anterior lip displacement or ALD predicts complications in these patients. A total of 578 patients treated for tibial spine fractures from an institutional review board-approved multi-center retrospective cohort of patients treated for tibial spine fractures between January 1, 2000 and January 31, 2019 at 10 institutions. The researchers examined range of motion and anterior lip displacement measurements and compared these from pre-treatment to the patient's final visit. Anterior lip displacement measures were categorized into 4 groups: 0 to 1 mm excellent, 1 to 3 mm good, 3 to 5 mm fair, and greater than 5 mm poor. Of the 578 patients reviewed, 82%, that is 474 out of 578, had an operative treatment, while only 18% of patients, that is 104 out of 578, had a non-operative treatment. There was a higher proportion of patients who had a positive Latchman test in the non-operative group, that is 12%, compared to the operative group, that is 4%. The surgical group had a median time of 3.4 months from surgery to final displacement measurement, while the non-operative group had a median time of 2.6 months from initial treatment to final displacement measurement. Operative patients who had both an extension and flexion contracture had 2.2 times the odds of having a complication compared to patients who did not have any contractures. This was independent of the final ALD, the researchers concluded. The effects of COVID-19 vaccine on menstrual cycle. A new analysis of reports from more than 35,000 people offers the most comprehensive assessment so far of menstrual changes experienced by pre- and post-menopausal individuals in the first 2 weeks after receiving the COVID-19 vaccine. Published in the journal Science Advances, the study adds to the evidence that significant numbers of people experience this unexpected side effect. The researchers used a survey to query people about their experiences after vaccination. Launched in April 2021, the survey asked for demographic and other information but focused on respondents' reproductive history and experiences regarding menstrual bleeding. The team downloaded the data from the surveys on June 29, 2021. Only those who had not been diagnosed with COVID-19 were included in the analysis, as COVID-19 itself is sometimes associated with menstrual changes. The study also excluded data from people 45 to 55 years old to avoid confounding the results by including menstrual changes associated with perimenopause. A statistical analysis revealed that 42.1% of menstruating survey respondents reported a heavier menstrual flow after receiving the COVID-19 vaccine. Some experienced this in the first 7 days, but many others saw changes 8 to 14 days after vaccination. Roughly the same proportion, 43.6%, reported no alteration of their menstrual flow after the vaccine, and a smaller percentage, that is 14.3%, saw a mix of no change or a lighter flow, the researchers reported. Unexpected breakthrough bleeding is one of the early signs of some cancers in post-menopausal people and in those who use gender-affirming hormones, so experiencing it can make people worry and require expensive and invasive cancer screening procedures, the researchers concluded. That's all for today. Stay tuned to Medical Dialogues for latest updates.
Never miss a medical update from Medical Dialogues. Like, subscribe, and press the bell icon.